You can see a little bit of light in the window behind me because it's 7 a.m. and we're fast approaching 12 hours of daylight. The equinox, the spring equinox, and then pretty soon it'll be light all the time for almost 3 months worth. Today we've got Michael Anderle coming to us live from...
coming from Henderson at the moment, where it is completely cloudy. I cannot see. Is that blue or just a dark gray cloud behind the trees over there? I think it's just dark gray cloud. So we are actually, we had a huge amount of snow yesterday, and there are snow on the peaks again. At least there were last night when I came home. Even back over here for me, which I've never seen snow on these peaks, and they had some flurries over there.
And today we have Jeff Brown to talk covers. Jeff, where are you coming to us from?
I'm from Cuernavaca, Mexico, so that's where I'm right now. It's just south of Mexico City.
And you're Canadian. You're Canadian. You moved down there.
I'm Canadian. Yeah, I got married here. Been living here about 8 years now. So
did your parents know that you were going down to get married to someone, or did you just kind of out there partying and never left?
Yeah, it was kind of like that.
More of the story. I don't know this story.
Yeah, no, I came down like on a volunteer trip. So I was here for a year and a half, and then before I met my wife, basically. But a year, I came back down for a bit, met my wife. I went back, and I went back, but I had a girlfriend now, and so they're like, "Oh no, we've lost him."
The cold winter, you go, no, Mexico's good.
Yeah, I had enough of that. Mexico's good. It's nice.
Yeah, you can't take you couldn't take her up to Canada. No.
Yeah. Way. Well, I took her up one winter in December for Christmas, and it got down to 50 below zero. So it was one of the coldest winters I ever had in Canada. She one morning she tried to open the window because she just used to get up in the morning, open the window. She's like, "Oh no, I'm not doing that."
Yeah, is that Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Well, it's close. 40 below is both. Is the same in both, so it's pretty close either way.
That's brutally cold. It's only minus 24 here right now. It's a little cold up here in Alaska, but still light out. You celebrate the little victories. So Jeff Brown, you're talking covers. Let's talk about how you first started. How'd you meet Michael and start doing covers for him?
Actually, yeah, let's go back. I'm going to ask Craig. I don't know the story of how you started covers at all, Jeff.
Yeah.
Start there. For sure. So I was doing a lot of, but a couple of years before then, I was doing a lot of board game stuff and a lot of sort of RPG, pen and paper gaming I was doing rule book covers and interior illustrations, that kind of stuff a lot. And I was getting almost all my work on Google+, believe it or not. So I had quite a bit of good following there and a lot of good clients. It was a pretty cool community. And then
how'd you even start art?
You
guys skip that whole part.
Yeah, I just skipped that whole part.
Out of the womb, you come up here and you're an artist.
Well, I've just been drawing forever. I don't really know when I started that. I've been doing dragons and castles and all that. What's that?
But you look 21.
Yeah, well, I'm actually 13 and a half, so I look older than I am.
But with the child.
Yes. Yeah, I had my child when I was 7, so. Yeah, my wife was 8, so it's okay though.
And this is the part of what happens when you know Jeff, that he has this sense of humor you don't expect from somebody who looks like Clark Kent. So, I mean, you think there's all this nice guy, and then he turns around and bites you with this humor that I've been the person who's received it a few times. Okay, so going back, you used to always draw pen and paper castles.
Yeah. So I liked sort of digital art, so I got into that when I was about 13. I went and bought my first tablet. It was a terrible little graphics tablet that always stopped working every couple minutes. I used that for a few years and just started learning Photoshop. I would do like little jobs for local people. Like basically, it's like a Craigslist for my city in Canada called Kijiji, and I would like advertise on there. I did little jobs and stuff, and I was going to do graphic design, but then I got into illustration, I guess, a bit more.
I'm sorry. So stop for a second. Craigslist. So Craig had a list over there.
Yeah, Craig had a list, and I got on it.
And then, but you you did an advert. How old were you when you were
I
advertising?
was like 15. So I would do like little design jobs for local places, and did like a menu for a restaurant and that kind of stuff when I was 15.
Interesting.
It was interesting times. Yeah.
Okay, so you're advertising at 15. You started. Okay, go ahead. Continue.
Yeah. um, yeah. Okay. So then I guess I just started doing lots of illustration. It was really, really terrible. But it was, I just spent a lot of time doing it. By the time I was about 19, 20, I started doing a few really small jobs for like board games and stuff like that. I would just like look online for different forums and stuff like that where they were posting, looking for artists. Got a few jobs like that. Had my stuff up on all these ArtStation wasn't up there, DeviantArt and ConceptArt.org, places like that. And just get little jobs. So then that's sort of where I found my way into that Google Plus sort of environment. I was planning on going to art school, but when I was about 18. But my work at that point, like I would look at the portfolio, the place I wanted to go to, which I was looking at Sheridan College for illustration in just outside of Toronto. And but I looked at their portfolios of people coming out, and I was about that level right then. So I was kind of, I felt like maybe I'll just skip that and see what I can do.
Yep.
Yeah, so I started getting work when I was about 20.
High-end work.
Well, yeah, it was like it was good. It was pretty good. I was making around when I was 20, I was making like $700 a month on doing stuff like that. About a year later, I started getting a lot more work when I got to Google Plus, and then and that was really good work. And I enjoyed that. And so I just asked there on Google Plus, hey, to my following there, sort of what else what other kind of work could I do that you think my portfolio would be good for? And somebody said you should try out book covers, and sent me to a website. I don't know the unnameable website.
Yeah.
The former website.
The former website known as Keyboards.
and that's where Michael ran across you.
Yeah. So I just posted there. I posted my work, and Michael was fairly quick to run across me there, I think.
Yeah, I think so. That was 2016, and I started making decent money in the early parts. But I remember the very first time I saw your stuff, I'm like, I can't afford him. I mean, you were expensive for me at that time by a large margin. And but I was able to reach out to you and stuff. And by the time I was able to afford you, I reached out to you and made you an offer. Mm-hmm. And that was, I wanted to work with Jeff completely, but I didn't necessarily always know what I would have to do for him. And I wanted also the ability to just get some of his art into my stuff. So I approached Jeff with an offer to say, and it was one of those situations where I'm like, basically, if I paid you every freaking month, what could we do? And, mm-hmm. and that's, we've been together ever since. I don't even know what month in 2016 that was. Was fall?
It was fall. I think it was October.
Okay. Fall of 2016. Mm-hmm. So we're coming up in about, in fall of this year, will be 5 years that we've worked together, and a lot of covers and art.
Yep. Lots and lots of art.
We're actually go ahead.
But so what kind of numbers? You talked about this earlier. How many covers have you done?
Somewhere between 2 and 20,000. Not exactly sure. No, I think it's about
a little bit of
a little bit vague. No, I think I don't really know, but I think around 550 at the moment.
I know I have 3 custom Jeff Brown covers for my Metamorphosis Alpha series that I did with Jim Ward, and those are exceptional pieces of art. And especially doing them live. One thing that you did for me was you're having a little bit difficult time with the concepts, and you're like, hey, let's get on Zoom. We'll do it. You just mm-hmm. watch. I'm going to add in the elements. I'm going to do some things. I'm going to do some rough sketches. Your rough sketches actually almost could be covers by themselves. Just almost the fantasy, the wash, almost like a watercolor kind of look. And yeah, needless to say, the end products were exceptional. and well worth the
Thank you.
money at the time, as we learned just recently.
Yeah.
Good to see you again. How much are your books again now? So one of the things that worked with me with Jeff during the process, we were doing the middle part of the Arthurian Gambit series. So this are books 8 through 15, and I was going away from having Bethany Ann be on the cover because I was looking at the near Earth stuff, and so we started going to that. And one of the things I really enjoyed about Jeff's covers was the way he would use light and everything. Even in space settings, there would be washes of light, shadows coming off of asteroids, things, similar to that. Well, one of those times, I remember the cover that it was like her, her ship is a bitch or something like that. One of my bitch names. Which I got in trouble for my wife. But so Jeff said, "Hey, let's get on." And then we got jumped on Zoom, and he would just do these things, and he'd grab shit. Like I remember one time we were doing a submarine, and I was imagining water dripping off the submarine. Well, in this Zoom effort, he would go and he started grabbing waterfalls and just pictures of waterfalls, and then he'd send the background to transparency, and then next thing I know, he's morphing it into what looks like sheets of rain coming off these submarines. And I'd have a cover really quick, and it was always what you wanted because you could just ask right there. Now, Jeff and I had a love-hate relationship a little bit, as in I would love to ask for something that he would hate to do, and there he would do it, and it would look awful, and then he'd give me such crap for it afterwards. That one time, we were doing one of the Michael covers, the Dark Messiah covers, and he got, I don't know what stick he got up his rear, but Jeff ended up pasting one of my faces on this thing and like putting it out to where now God only knows where it is, but it wasn't fun. It's like, no, get that off.
Somewhere on the dark web.
Yeah, somewhere on the dark web it's there. So I've learned that everything with Jeff comes with potential for abuse on myself. Mm-hmm. So I have to be really sure. It's like, no, yeah, let me see it. Oh God.
It's always a possibility. Also, when you don't have a title yet, that's also dangerous territory.
Yes, that is. So he gets his little fun things at those times. So, but Jeff's or Craig's comment about actually seeing it right there, it's fun when a few people, or especially authors that are going to get a Jeff cover, and they come into it and they were like, yeah, we're going to set you up with Jeff live, and they have no idea what that experience is like. And if you get a chance, do it. It's fantastic.
So for you, Jeff, for aspiring artists, what advice would you give them for if they're getting into book covers?
Yeah, well, my main thing is this: they eat a lot of tacos. That's really, that's mostly what I do.
So go to Mexico.
Yeah, it really helps. I guess a lot of my advice is really focusing on improving your craft before starting to get a lot of work, because a lot of times you can start to, and it's good to do that both side by side, but if you have that possibility of really focusing and spending a year or so, or a year or two of focused learning, there's so many resources out right now to learn to learn digital art and get really good at it quickly. But when you start having to do client work, you end up sort of having to just do things that are like without that sort of creativity, without allowing yourself to explore and do things. You're just trying to do it with what you know already. So spending a lot of focused time, and I think especially a lot of industries, but especially the book cover, and especially self-published book covers, the level is just going up and up and up. So having that high level to start with is important.
Where would you learn? Where would you figure out? There's no book to say, here are great book covers. What are some of the facets of book covers that you need to figure out? I know that, for instance, the easiest one I can tell people is you got to pay attention to where your typography is going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, typography is really half of that. I guess if I'm allowed to plug something, I'm running an online art school right now. So I started that. Yeah, I started in what was it, like July last year? So I have a lot of book cover artists in there, trying to teach just all the fundamentals of art and design. I mean, it's probably a little bit skewed to book covers, but so that's illustrious.academy.
Now we have to go see that, man.
Yeah. So
you could have made something that was a little bit easier to spell, right? Illustrious.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, I have to make it a bit difficult for people to get there. It's a bit exclusive. So,
Which means expensive. Like
no, it's $2,000 a month. No, it's $25 a month. So I try to keep it pretty reasonable. And we actually do live Zoom classes every Saturday. So
is this on Teachable? Because I'm not.
Yes, yeah, that's Teachable.
Illustrious.teachable.com.
No, it's illustrious.academy.
Okay, because that's definitely not what it's showing me.
Let's see. It's in your link.
Because I mean, it sort of looks like. Let's see. I had no idea how to become a professional artist. Now you
there you go.
So now you make over $100,000 a year. Half of that's mine.
Yeah, five quarters of that is yours.
5 quarters.
Yes.
You're about as quick as Craig on this stuff.
I mean, I just throw them out there. I don't know if they're good, but
crash courses, light, shadow, color theory, marketing, price. So yeah, you hit all of the fundamentals: learning, mindset, composition, portraits, characters. So characters was something that you struggled with. I mean, you obviously had epic. When I first met you, I would say most of your stuff to me always came across as epic, whether it be spaceships or fantasy, both of them. Yeah. Amazingly so.
We'd get the first draft, and I remember the second draft's guidance would be, okay, we like that, but make it more awesome. And that would be the extent of our guidance. And it was a ridiculous way to request covers, but the first bit of requesting the cover, we tried to give a concept back and forth with Jeff. He would deliver that draft, and then we'd just say, that's great, make it more awesome. And we'd get the final product within a day, and life would be good.
Yes. Yeah. So it it is very excellent that way. So, but others, I mean, do you have any you particularly care to share? Because I can talk to, one thing that we've recently done with Jeff, which is we're deciding to go into a fantasy, kind of epic-y fantasy. And I even had a conversation with Jeff like a month ago that is like, you're one of the best, period, that I know of in epic fantasy, look, feel, and everything else. So we're doing a project with Jeff where we sat, this was Thursday, you, Kelly, and myself got on a Zoom, and we told you the concept of what we're trying to do in order to honestly get concept art. Just work that out. And the value of being able to see your line drawings, and it was just still so much fun. Do you have many of those videos online for people to watch?
So of me doing like live, I don't have any. I don't have very many. I want to do some more actually. It's really fun to do. No, I definitely need to do more of that. I don't have anything recent really. So I mean, I do a fair bit of that in the school, but no, I don't.
There's one of them right on your illustrious Academy. There's one of those.
Do I have one of them? Oh, that's. I think I have one. Actually, I do. No, I do have one on my website actually, my process page. Which is
I don't know.
Yeah.
Craig, is there a way to bring that up by chance? Websites, Craig. Are you listening, Craig?
No, don't make me change screens because I'll log us all off. And, there's a certain danger with that.
All right, so let's talk about one of the next things, which we alluded to a little bit earlier, which is the cost of covers. Like a good editor, a cost can be malleable up and down, and you can get ripped off both ways. You can have a person who charges you a lot of money, and you can have a crap cover that looks amazing but won't sell.
Yeah,
and you really kind of need to talk to your cover artist and realize whether or not they're an artist or are they a cover artist who is going to explain to you what's going on. We lost them.
See, that's what you get when you try to share a website. Come on back, Jeff. Come on back, Jeff. Oh, goddamn guys, these guys are talking about money. I'm an artist.
Well, I suppose he'll be back here shortly.
Hey, there he comes. You know what, Jeff? You're getting the little window, bitch.
All right, Jeff, you didn't really do that well.
Nice try, Jeff. Whatever you did.
All right, I didn't click anything. I don't know what happened there.
Oh no, you clicked
I'm back.
something.
It was you.
I don't know what I did.
So what I was saying was that there's a lot of different values, a lot of different price points. For the individual who doesn't have much budget, the first indie or the person who's not really sure about this, where would you recommend they go to get a cover that might sell well without breaking the bank?
Yeah, I mean, with covers, I don't always recommend people go with me unless they really want to do, unless they really sort of want to go at that level, or
and by what that level, we spoke about it earlier. So if you're sitting down there out there,
make sure you're sitting down. My price is at $2,000 right now
for a cover.
Yeah. So that includes everything you possibly want with a cover. Sort of all the bells and whistles.
And what if we want it without wheels? What does it cost without wheels?
Well, yeah, if it's just so basically, I just lower it it was just like the ebook, I lower that down $400. If it's just ebook and print, I lower it down $200. So that's
okay.
Still
So
very
16,
expensive.
18, and 2,000.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, most people are going with the full package, so I just got rid of the other ones to keep it simple. But that's sort of what I do. Yeah. So I mean, I try to if somebody comes to me and they're not really sure about working with me, I sort of suggest going to other people. I have a resources page on my website with other links to artists. Another great place to look right now is a website that's just being started called the Cover Design Directory, I believe. CoverDesignerDirectory.com. Like the responses to my prices there.
We have some questions you're going to have to answer.
So I'll have to get to the questions here. So I mean, that's a great place to look to find artists. You can go and see all their, like, the covers there. Go, and then you can click and find a bit about the artists, and you go to their websites right away. And that's a curated place. So there's like sort of known designers that have published books out there, which I think is important. You can definitely figure out how to get artwork and then add the typography in that. But it is a whole different art making a cover versus just doing art and putting it on a cover.
Great art does not necessarily mean a great cover.
Yes, no, it doesn't. There's a big learning curve that I had to go through when I was starting covers. And it took me a little bit to get there, but I mean, it's a whole different art. The value of typography is something that a lot of artists will underestimate and just leave like a little gap at the top, a little gap at the bottom. But right now, I try to leave like half of the cover for typography generally now, which is very important.
Let's get to these questions real fast so we can get them out of the way. But I just saw Elaine's Holy Mother of God.
Yeah, that's what I was laughing at earlier.
So can you, the more important question of the two that I see right away is, can you be paid in tacos?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about
what more do you want there? Yeah.
Your wife's gonna be like, sure, fine, no problem.
I mean, I may come back to this like just barely, like I won't be able to get out of my chair after that. But
all right, the other one was, can they start your class at any time, like next week?
Oh yeah, it's actually on today at 4 Central. Michael doesn't like me talking in Central times. Sorry.
Michael, hey, that might be a dig at Thursday when I 1 o'clock Central and 11 o'clock PST. Maybe might have been relevant.
Yeah, so you can start at any time. There's no real order to the classes. It's just like I post them, do them live on different topics, and then you can ask questions throughout there. And then after that, I post them online, and you can watch them at any time. But yeah, you can join if you want to join today. The class is on today in a few hours. So yeah.
And let's talk trends. Do you do anything in urban fantasy? Because somebody asked a question on that.
I do a little bit of urban fantasy. I mean, most of my, especially lately, I've sort of realized the value of niching. So being like more specific. So a lot of my sort of target where I'm trying to work is I'm trying to do epic fantasy and trying to do sort of military sci-fi. That's like sort of my two big genres.
Okay. What trends are you
but I would
seeing in your two big genres?
Yeah, I do some urban fantasy. I've been doing some, but I guess as far as the target audience, I generally work on sort of male focused target audience. Sort of more, I guess, more like a masculine tone to the design, I guess, if that makes sense.
There's not a lot of hugging in any of these.
No, yeah, more shooting, less hugging, basically. As far as trends, I mean, I'm not very trendy as a person, I guess. I try to do things that provoke the right emotion more than following a trend. I mean, there's definitely trends, I think, more as far as typography, and then having the art just be really clean and crisp and strong. Overall trends over a lot of years is like focusing more on the thumbnail, definitely for Amazon. But I tend not to follow a lot of trends. I guess I try to do things that I really like, but I'm not the right person to ask as far as trends. I'm not really. I mean, there's probably a lot of people that know all about that. I'm not really one of them. Yeah, go ahead.
What are the times that we've introduced you some of the new authors with LMBPN? You've encountered the same mistake over and over again from new authors who are getting involved with you. I can think of one of them, which is I want everything to look exactly like some scene in my book, along with I want all of my characters on the cover.
Yes.
Can you speak to both of those comments as well as any others?
Yeah, actually. So when I start with new clients, I try to do a Zoom call for every new client, usually every book. One of the things I go through is I'll sort of walk through that, because I used to basically at the start, when I was starting out, I had no idea what to do. So I would just say, I'd get a brief, yep, done, whatever it is, I'll do it, even if I hate it, even if I know it's going to look bad, I just kind of do it.
You got to in the beginning though. That's how
you have to. There's no, like in otherwise you can't really learn there. So what, just over time, I've started learning about what is more marketable, what is less marketable. And so I basically go through a little, like a few points in this kind of conversation. So one of the main points there is I will say, who is the cover for? And we have 4 different options here. So it's not for me as the designer to do whatever I want to do, whatever is, I mean, there's some merit to doing that, because it's like, I'll probably do something cooler if it's what I really want to do. But that's not the purpose of it. It's like it's not for me to do whatever I want. It's not for the author to have a specific scene from the book, because I mean, as an author, it's fantastic to be like, there's this cool scene in my head. I wrote this. I want to see it. I want to see it played out, which is awesome. But I don't think the cover is the greatest place for that, because at the end of the day, the cover is not for the author. It's also, here's where it gets tricky though. It's not for your readers, because your readers are already invested in your book. They're already reading it. And sometimes they'll go back to the cover and look at it and be like, oh, that's a cool detail from the book. But that's also not the point of the cover. The point of the cover is for your potential clients, potential readers. I mean, it's for them to look at the cover, and what they really want is not car alarm. What's that? What they want from the cover is not the specific details of the Elf King has a ring with 3 diamonds in the shape of hearts. They want to know the overall feel of the book. They want to understand what the mood is, what the genre is, and then they want the most awesome looking thing possible that also reads in a thumbnail, because they're just scrolling through Amazon.
And why is thumbnail? Explain that issue.
Yeah.
Might not know the phrase.
So yeah, thumbnail is just like the little tiny image that you get on Amazon, where you're scrolling through it and you're seeing all these different covers. So versus a bookstore, where you can go in and see the cover at full size, see all the details right away. When you're buying something digital, you the first glance of anything you get is that little thumbnail. So if you go to a big museum and you see these big murals, you shrink that down to 1 inch wide, it's not going to read at all. It's just going to be a whole muddy mess.
Oh, by the way, the Mona Lisa is a small little thing.
Yeah.
Real life. I totally shocked. You know, we're waiting hours to see it. I'm like, it's that big?
It's just tiny. Yeah.
You know, I've learned when we went to the what is that one in Paris? Where the Mona Lisa.
The Louvre.
Thank you. Yeah. I can't even remember the place. No, but when we went there, I was like, so many things that I saw, including like, I was so excited, the Egyptian wing. I'm like, they're a lot more interesting on my 54-inch or whatever size television at home. I've kind of sworn off museums.
Yeah, in the Uffizi, what we found was the Botticellis were freaking walls. They were massive. The characters were like 10 feet tall, 9 feet tall. So, yes, you got the full aura of it. And,
but you don't get on Amazon.
You don't get that on Amazon, no.
No. And most people buy on their phones. It's an increasing percentage of people who will buy off their phones. And the only way they're going to do that is if they can see what that thumbnail, if they can get an idea of the genre and the flavor of the story enough to then click through and read the blurb and whatever blurb they can see before they buy. You know, how much scrolling will they do? And this is, have you hooked them? And if they go in and look inside for authors, have you hooked them? We do have a question from Elaine. Your course, if your covers target men, what about romance authors? Would they be able to get something from your course?
Oh, yeah. So I go, the main thing I really try to focus on is the fundamentals of art in general, which is that it doesn't depend on any genre. I also do have guest teachers come in fairly often, probably about once a month. So doing other genres and other kinds of art. But yeah, I do most of my students are doing character focused art, and a lot are doing urban fantasy, a lot are doing romance. So it's not all like my kind of work. But the fundamentals of it apply throughout. So I'll do like any cover at all, and even just any illustration. Like I focus the course on illustration as well as photo manipulation and all that kind of stuff. So it does apply to anybody.
So if I understand you correctly, you're saying that at $25 a month, if an author wants a better understanding of how to make their covers more presentable, but they have zero desire to actually do it themselves, it still has value. Yeah,
I mean, you can, if you want to come in, watch everything you can for a month and then leave, that's totally fine too. I mean, yeah, it's open for anybody. If you think you'll find value in it, on the website, there's a whole course list so you can see all the topics we've covered. If you think there's value in there, I mean, yeah, for sure.
So if you go to jeffbrowngraphics.com/resources, there's the list of the other cover designers going anywhere from, at least what I'm looking, $200 to $1,000. If someone's looking at 200 as being a little bit steep, where would you suggest? And there was another question I think we missed about, can you say the name of that book director?
We put it online, but we're also streaming live to YouTube. That was Savage Tempest. It's coverdesignerdirectory.com. No spaces, no dashes. Coverdesignerdirectory.com. There you go, Savage.
Yeah, so you're suggesting that's a great place to go.
Yes, it's a very new website, so it's just starting out right now. But I think that's a fantastic way to get a bunch of designers immediately. They're going to be all over the price range, so spectrum there.
A few years ago, I was doing a project with another company, and we were going to go into an area I had no familiarity with, and we were planning on doing at least 60 to 80 covers really fast. So the cost of the covers needed to be pretty low. And the strategy that I used is I went to the cover design directories and I found somebody and I sorted it effectively by, price descending. So at the very beginning, I would just go click next page, click next page, click next, because they were too expensive. Once I got to the actual price range I could afford, I started looking at the actual covers to find out who had the skill I felt I wanted. And then I would reach out to them. And that's how I found people that were within my price range. Because typically, if you go to premates, a lot of times the premates at the lower price range are not that different than what they're going to charge you to do a full cover anyway. So something to consider.
Now, there's also a Facebook group, Cover Gallery, that Ryan Schwartz runs, and that has a couple hundred artists on it. as well. There are a lot of options, and this is when we first started over 5 years ago. There weren't. I know I was on DeviantArt looking for great art and reached out to a number of artists, and I never got a single response back.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I was like, I'm a paying customer, and I didn't care what at that point. I just wanted better artwork and better covers, and not a single one. So finding those resources now, at least 5 years later, we're much, much better suited to find great resources at the right prices for authors and publishers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Facebook, the book cover gallery, it's a place for authors and authors and artists, something like that. You can post in there and get responses back on what you're looking for as well. Another great place to find.
And they have pre-made sales and stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah, that's really the main thing there.
But for you, Jeff, epic fantasy, what do you like best about an epic fantasy cover?
Well, for epic fantasy, I mean, that's the main genre I like to read as well. So, I really like being able to see the scope of the world. So I try to have the covers have as much depth as possible, and I really try to show off the scale, because that's what I really like looking at. That I find that really inspiring. So I guess showing as much scale, showing as much depth, as much sort of epic overall feeling as possible. So I love doing castles and mountains and that kind of stuff on an epic fantasy.
I was going to say castles and dragons.
Dragons. I love dragons.
Dragons sell.
I love dragons.
Put a dragon on your cover.
Yes.
That's true.
Yes.
So, all right. So we have you have a great place that you're teaching people for what I would consider a fantastic price, because from 12 till however old you are now. How old are you? Because I swear.
How old do you think I am?
If I had to guess, because of how long we've known each other, in your early 30s?
No.
I don't know. You liar.
No, I'm 27.
Okay, so late 20s. Man, you did get started early. So you said,
I did.
Okay,
yes.
I'm going to go back in time. Was it for a church reason that you went down to Mexico, or was it just you were volunteering for something else?
Yeah, it was like a church kind of volunteering thing. I was doing a lot of a lot of volunteer things with like going to the villages and stuff like that, helping with homework help and stuff like that. It was cool.
Okay,
that's where it kind of started. Yeah,
and in the end, you ended up with a wife, so you kind of got paid.
Yeah,
but yet you're still willing to be paid in tacos. So
yes, I am, absolutely.
That gave up the youth. That was the indicator right there.
Mm-hmm.
We have a new question. Is there an artist or cover from back in the day that inspired you?
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's a cover that I really loved since I was a kid, that I used to take out the book from the library multiple times just to look at the cover.
Fahrenheit 451.
No, it was called Dragons of Autumn Twilight.
Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman.
Yes, I love that cover so much. I love the depth and the story and the detail. What I loved most about it was this background with these giant trees, with these little pathways and houses that were built up on the tree, and I just loved the depth of that background. That I would just stare at it.
Is that a Larry Elmore cover?
I don't think Larry Elmore did the really high definition ones. At least I don't remember him doing those.
He did a lot of covers.
Right,
he can be had today, but it's like $5,000 for a cover from Larry.
That would be interesting, because at the level of success that we are, and actually I meant to ask you a question about 100 with over 100 covers, Craig. How many of your book story successes do you believe was originated with the cover? Like, you look at the story and go, it's a solid story, but that cover sold it.
I think when we re-wickered the Judge, Jury, and Executioner series, that's when it really took off.
Okay.
The covers that first look into the book, and now when you look at my covers across the board, across our shared stuff, in my own, there's a certain standard that's way up here, because my goal has always been indistinguishable from books you might find in Barnes & Noble. So at a traditional bookstore. So that has always been my goal. So I think if you want to compete at this level, you need to be at this level. So there's a certain amount of, and typography. And this is one thing Jeff said right away. One thing that I made sure of and wickered throughout was that typography has to be perfect. And so I have a lot of Tom Edwards covers. I had other people do the typography because I wanted something a little bit different than the great artwork. Okay, we got the great artwork, but we need that the thing that really pops. And so that's what has contributed to my success. It's multi-elements. It's those blurbs. I keep trying to improve my blurbology and write a great book, writing better and better books. But the cover, it has to be whatever the premier cover, and it doesn't have to be expensive, but it has to be whatever I consider the premier cover in that genre.
You got me. I'm sorry, you lost me in blurbology.
It's a great word.
Blurbamundos.
Yeah.
You love blurbs.
I do. But I'm going to go ahead on Justin's question related to artist cover from back in the day. Who are your inspirations, both back in the day and now?
Yeah.
And what's your turtle named?
And what's that?
What's your turtle named behind you?
Oh, I have 2 turtles. Their names are Bob and Linda. I'm not even kidding.
Okay, back to the artist question.
So the artist I am really following right now, and where I'm trying to go with my art is a lot of the concept artists from that did just the recent game The Last of Us 2, which is like a video game company. It's called Naughty Dog. It's a very strange video game company, but some of the best concept art in the world. That's a lot of those artists are who I'm really following right now. So especially one his name is Eitan Zana. He's a big inspiration for my work. Another illustrator that does completely different stuff. His name is Ruan Jia. It's Ruan Jia. I mean, those are sort of my two favorite artists at the moment, and that's sort of where I'm trying to move forward.
How promiscuous are you with your favorite artists? How often
promiscuous? Wait, what? I haven't even talked to them. Like, I'm married.
I'll buy you tacos. Come to Mexico, I'll buy you tacos.
How often do you change favorite? I mean,
Eitan Zana has been. I mean, both of those guys have been some of my favorite artists for probably 7-8 years. So I mean, that's sort of my main ones for a long time. Mm-hmm. I've had some that go up and down and sort of my favorites, but those two have sort of been very stable.
And what is it you like about them?
I really like the quality of sort of the word crispiness, how clean and just beautiful and like sharp the lines are, and then there's soft edges on where it's so sharp edges where it's supposed to be sharp, and soft edges where it's supposed to be soft to sort of guide your eye. So the lighting is a big thing. Just beautiful lighting, beautiful color shifts, a lot of subtlety that I'm trying to sort of push forward, because I feel like my art style has just been like kind of Michael Bay, just kind of right in your face in a lot of ways. And I want to sort of learn a little not to lose that, but to get more of the beautiful subtle elements in my work.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. I'm sorry, I got lost. Elaine came on with a comment. I was trying to figure out. She said it was a great turn of phrase when I said, how promiscuous are you with your artists? Totally blew you out of the water. And then, so from my perspective, I think that, and there was 2 questions. We need to get back to your drawing of people. I think that has been something that would be interesting to learn about, your evolution in doing that. But from an LMBPN perspective, I mean, we do 15 to 25 covers a month right now, something like that. And we have 5 artists that in some form or fashion are continuing with this. Jeff is certainly obviously one of them, and has been from the beginning and will be until he tells us to go the hell away. But it's just trying also that, one of the things I've learned in time is you have to make sure that with your artist, are you growing with them? Are you keeping them at a certain level, not realizing that they don't want to do this, in 3 years from now? They might not wish to do this stuff. So where are you at in learning what they want to do? And that was been a little bit of my effort with Jeff in the last few months is, what does Jeff want to do? And when the concept of saying, okay, we've been doing these sword and sorcery, and we've got 13 sword and sorceries planned, but we wanted to go with more of an epic feel. And there was like, can we please get Jeff on the horn? And it's like, because we're about to go right into his realm, and it's going to be one of those things where, I've got a Jeff Brown, and it's not just a cover that we're looking to do with Jeff, but we've, increased it and said, Jeff, we're going to want to do just concept stuff and, really play into it. And so because of an ongoing relationship we've had with Jeff, we have the opportunity to do this. And so I would encourage people to think about it, that when you find artists, figure out how to create a relationship with them, and they in turn will, be there for you. And there's one example of this that, I doubt you could do nowadays, but when LMBPN started working with, Jeff, it was a situation where I set it up, and like 60 days later, we had a catastrophe happen. And we had to reach out to Jeff, and it was like in December. Now, I didn't find out until after the fact, but what had happened is Jeff and his family were on a trip. You guys were like backpacking or something, somewhere far away from society, or, enough, but you had enough with you that you could get internet messages and things. And you like somehow did our work in the middle of this trip. I had no idea you guys were even gone. You just made it happen.
Yeah.
And I remember this story so well because I happened to be like on K-boards or something at the time and looking at something, and they're like, yeah, he's impossible to get a hold of. He's on vacation. And I'm like, really? Because he just answered my email yesterday. So I don't, and then that's when I found out. But it's that ability and that desire. And I think similar to what you've done, Craig, with like when you had your editor and you found the editor you wanted, and you just said, you know what, I will guarantee you this work. So if you're going to have a business that you're going to grow, I highly suggest those individuals which you feel are going to help make and break you is learn more about them. Try to figure out if there's a way that y'all can actually create a relationship, and then take care of them, for goodness sakes. And, that's certainly what the concept, between our stuff, and then Jeff took care of us immediately, and I didn't even know he was doing it. So.
Yeah, there was a question about you. Are you just covers, or are you also willing to do concept art like characters and things like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess we haven't really talked much about characters. I don't do a lot of character work in general. It's not sort of my, I do it, but I don't, it's not sort of my favorite thing to do. I like doing environments. I like doing
dragons.
I love dragons. I love dragons. I like doing bigger scenes and sci-fi and spaceships and all that kind of stuff. So I do characters, but I would probably recommend somebody else for characters. So as far as doing character, I do other stuff, but I don't. As far as my other work, like I do some maps and I do some other concept work, but I don't think that my price is going to be a good amount of money. Versus there's a very specific set of skills for doing covers, especially for epic fantasy and for space opera and military sci-fi. But that there's a lot more people who can do illustration like that. So I'd probably not the best money spent in terms of doing other art.
Let me get this right. Your answer is, if it's not these, holy crackers, people, find the right artist, not me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to do it. No, I'm more than happy to do it, but I'm going to charge basically corresponding to my time, because I could be making money in covers. So I have to sort of charge based on that, just to not be losing money in terms of what I could be making.
Okay, but that begs the question, which is how I would try to manipulate this, because I'm that kind of guy. What is it that you would love? And he leaves. See, I'm not going to get my question.
He's touching stuff. I know he's touching stuff down there.
Oh, man, I don't know about that. I've got this light over here, and it's a real warm light, and so it casts a yellow glow on my teeth. And I'm like, I'm looking at my teeth going, my teeth are not stained yellow. So what, I offended you already?
No, I literally had my hands off of the the computer. It's like cutting it out every 15 minutes or something. I literally did not touch anything. I'll put my hands up here, it'll turn off.
I think you're touching stuff.
Yeah, his comment when you left.
My hands up here.
What was I even saying? I totally lost it now. Oh, that you were talking about, if
doing
a character.
Yeah.
So the question I would have is like, is there any art you would like to play with? And even if you paid minimally, you'd still be willing to do it just because you want to go mess with it? Or is there an author that has such a good name that you'd be like, you know what, I want to see my cover on one of his books, and you'd be willing to take a cut rate price for that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, probably. There's probably an author. Like I think if I could do like a Brandon Sanderson cover, I think I would probably do that. Even if I didn't get paid. This is like cool. I mean, that's probably worth it just to have that name on my resume.
Okay.
So something like that. I mean,
pen name Drandon Patterson. We'll get it.
So Brandon Sanderson's going to contact me. Oh, free art, great.
Yes, exactly. And then Craig, I think I might have interrupted you earlier. I'm hoping.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I've lost my train of thought now too, because you're out of control. The like always, we always are. We devolve quickly, and we're back. What kind of words do you want to leave for how an author will contact you, and what will entice you to do their work?
Well, getting paid is good.
But I mean, you're already scheduling out you're already scheduling out through September.
Yeah.
So, but when an artist contacts you, when an author contacts you, and to know that this is going to be the right thing, because here it's like, I want to do characters, and you're like, I think somebody else might be better because of epic fantasy, mill sci-fi, space opera. So if somebody's in one of those three genres and wants to work with you, besides being able to pony up the $2,000, how would they entice you? What would charge your battery, as it may be?
Yeah, I think this is a good question for any artist. But doing wanting to do whatever that artist loves doing is great. Like if somebody wants to do dragons and castles, I'm like, yes, that's what I want to do. So I mean, I'll definitely push it towards whatever the book needs. If I find it something else, but I mean, I love doing the stuff that I love to do. Like that's, like what I got into the business to do. Like I loved when I was a kid, I loved doing dragons and castles. So if I could do dragons and castles, that's ideal for me.
These are illustrations, so that means they're available for merchandising as well, right?
I do. So I do include. I use stock photos in there as well. I buy a fair amount of stock photos. I mix them in. They're not a main element. It's a lot of it is hand painting, especially the dragons. They're all pretty much hand painted. Okay. So there is that mix in there as far as that issue. There's there's not a stock photo where you'd be able to look at and see like, oh, that's from there. But I mix in dozens of them in little pieces into them.
And then Justin has a question. Do you read your perspective books, or do you rely more on the interview process with the author?
Yeah, I definitely rely on the interview process. So I do a lot. Like when I do a Zoom call, I ask a lot of questions about it. Not just about I'll ask a little bit about the plot, but I really want to know about the overall mood of the book, how it feels, why somebody would be reading it, what's the main sort of story arc, like a lot about what emotions they want to convey, then what interesting locations, and then try to get sort of the, because it's not just about creating a perfect cover for that book. It's about creating the most awesome thing possible for that genre. But then that also fits the book.
So a couple of and Justin, I can give it from my vantage point. I hate anytime an artist says, please fill out this form about this information, because it's just not a form I care to feel about. It's like I've always thought, well, why can't you read the book? Well, it can take a slow reader 3 days to read a book.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not really a good amount, on their time. But the way that it's interacted with Jeff is, you get on that call and then he'll just start asking questions and doodling, and then you'll see it kind of appear, and it doesn't feel nearly as constraining or annoying as trying to fill out any sort of, tell me about the book, tell me about the characters, which I understand from a business process, which probably just made Craig stand up and holler, why they would want to do it. But as a customer, I hate it. Hate that.
Same.
Yeah. From an artist perspective, the form, I mean, I do the calls because it's very, well, first of all, I like talking with people in calls, which most artists don't. I also think that it's a very fast way of getting the content like approved right away. So it smooths out the process for me. But a form is really valuable because somebody can look back on it and go back and forth and be like, okay, I want this. Okay. And it's a lot better than just getting a whole brief with a sort of random information. So it's really like a form is really valuable for an artist. Even if it's not the most fun to fill out, like that's a really, really valuable, like that's other than doing a call, which I don't think most people are wanting to do for artists. That's a really, like, that's the best possible thing for an artist to get all the information that they need.
We have one of the artists that you have in your other cover designers does a lot of work with us. And we've had him come on in a Zoom call, and it freaked him out the first time. No, it's okay. We almost had to talk him down from the cliff. It's okay. We do this with Jeff. It's all right. You can do this. You can do this. So that works out really well. So we have to scribble ideas and write like this, but not so awful sort of brief. So we are coming into the ending, Craig. Are there additional things? Did you want to, any news on 20 Books Vegas?
Oh, 20 Books Vegas. Are you coming, Jeff?
I'm not sure yet.
What we're going to do is we'll have a separate booth that will be manned all 5 days with just cover artists. Rebecca Haskell is leading the charge on that one because Ryan Schwartz, he now works for Warhammer, and he is a Games Workshop, and he is now he has another conference that he has to go to, so he won't be there this year. However, we'll still have the same kind of thing we had set up for 2020. So 5 days, you'll be able to talk to cover artists, a number of industry pros, big time pros will be there in those booths as well for all 5 days. So you'll be able to access certain people and upgrade your professionalism. If you're looking for cover artists, you can meet some, talk to them, and then go to sessions and learn what there is to learn. We're at about 1,500 people. We need another 100 or so to break even on our costs and get all we want with the AV, which our AV costs are $105,000 plus $10,000 for the internet. The internet just for simultaneous broadcast of our presentations. So yes, that's it. $180,000 for just catering. And so at $300, you can do the math, and then you subtract this, and then you subtract the extra 31% in taxes and fees. And all of a sudden it's like, yeah, you can see where all that money goes, and it goes in a hurry. All good, because this is going to be the best show. We should have about 200 different presentations. Michael Anderle is giving the keynote on Tuesday evening. That will be our keynote speaker. We have a number of guest speakers we won't announce until this summer when we hopefully break out the first schedule. I'll send an email this week for the author signing day on Friday, for Friday, November 12th, for people to sign up. There's no cost for that. Vendors, I am charging a little extra just because, hey, it's kind of expensive, and we don't take sponsors. So yeah, lots of stuff on Vegas. I'll do a whole show later in the week on Vegas specifics, especially as it relates to Vegas. All right. Any final words, Michael?
Not for me. Just I really encourage you to reach out, understanding that artists and cover artists are certainly something that you should be very aware of. We have resuscitated series. We have had series that just took off because the right cover was on it, and we all looked at it and went, we have to admit it's a good book, but it's not worth what it's selling right now. and that we can attribute back to the covers. So don't think that a book is wasted. Craig and I, back in the beginning, when we didn't have this kind of money to throw around, went and redid like 4 or 5 of his covers when we were like, this isn't the right direction. And we just had to throw all of that effort away and start all over again. So covers are just that important.
It's just a package around your it's just wrapping around your package. So it's okay if your book's not selling and it's a good book, then it could be the cover. So don't be afraid to change them, but don't think it's the cover and just change it, and then next month you don't have sales and say, oh, it's the cover, and change it again. you got to give it. You got to give peace a chance, right? So any final words, Jeff?
Yeah, I guess I think it's good to think about cover design as an investment as well. Like it's that you can get a lot of money back with a really good cover. There's obviously I do think my prices are way above what a lot of people are going to spend. It's like a premium product, but I do think there's a lot of value in hiring high level artists that are charging less than that, because there's people that are setting trends, that are people that are making sort of waves in the industry and doing some really, really cool things that can make your book a lot more money than it's making just from the cover change. So even more, I see this whole thing with a lot of people buying just tons and tons of pre-mades and sort of hoarding them, which I think a better way to think of it is just, instead of buying 10 pre-mades, buy one $10,000 cover or whatever.
The premier. Yep.
Yeah. But especially I think the way the industry is going to have to go, especially with how especially with COVID, getting like bookstores, it's everything. Everybody's on Amazon now. They're not competing at that kind of even level. So like you said, you want your books to be at that level of any sort of traditional publisher, and that's just going to be more and more necessary to be marketable. So thinking of that and getting those sort of top level creative designers that are doing really cool things, I think that's a really good investment in your future, because I do think that the overall quality is going to go up very soon for book covers in general, which is awesome. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, good deal. Thanks for coming on, Jeff. We appreciate it, and we'll let you know when the next CNM show happens. All right, everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Bye. Thanks, guys.